Chairman, I want to thank this entire panel. I know it's been a long process, but I really do believe that we're gaining a great deal from your insight. Sheriff Bach, I want to thank you for the work that you do, and I know you represent all law enforcement. I had the good opportunity to come in as a United States Attorney just a week after September 11th, and I watched colleagues like you all across the United States fan out and reach into the community. And I have to say, we got a great deal of dialogue from members all across, including many who practice the Muslim faith. So I don't think the issue really today is so focused on the question of dialogue. It's as much the question of, are we getting the right ability to communicate in a way that helps us prevent the next event? And I have been aware that one of the things that we were asked to do by the very experts that aren't here today was to go out into the community and speak to folks just like you so we could understand better how to handle this. And I've tried to look at the broad spectrum of things that have been put forth quite a bit here today, but Dr. Jasser, I'm going to focus on something that you touched. And it's into this area between this elephant in the room that we're not supposed to be talking about, religion and jihadism. You made a statement that the root cause of Muslim radicalization, and this is what it's about, is Islamism, political Islam. And then I was struck by your word. How can law enforcement effectively do counterterrorism in our country without recognition that political Islam and its narrative is the core ideology when at its extreme it drives the general mindset of the violent extremists carrying out attacks? That's what we want to prevent, are those attacks. Can I ask you to describe just a little more detail, what do you mean by political Islam?
Thank you, Congressman, for asking me that, because I think it's so vital to understanding that. As we've heard repeatedly, there's Islam, my faith, which is the moral constructs of integrity and honesty and virtuousness and what I bring to my scripture and my relationship with God as the Judeo-Christian tradition is. Then there's political Islam, which is a movement to create a theocratic state based in Quranic interpretation that uses Sharia or Islamic law or Islamic jurisprudence. Now, I may practice Sharia or Islamic law in my life, but that's a choice. And our organization believes that it's no longer religious law, it's no longer a religion if government coerces you to do that. But that antagonism between this country's understanding of the Establishment Clause and the beauty of liberty versus political Islam, which wants to put into place Islamic states like Iran, like the Taliban had in place, or like the Wahhabi system in Saudi Arabia, or milder yet, there are versions of political Islam that are 3.0 or 4.0 that use democracy in elections, but yet end up still being based not in reason, but societies based in scriptural exegesis, where the only people that can have opinions are ulama or scholars of Islam, and therefore lay Muslims like myself get dismissed from proceedings because we're not experts in Islamic law, and therefore it becomes an oligarchy. That is what we're up against. And there's the extreme versions like Osama bin Laden that believes in caliphism or trying to create a global hegemony of Islamic states. And there's the more sort of slippery versions that believe in democracy. And I can look at the threat by looking at why most of the radical groups around the world were hatched from Muslim Brotherhood ideology and Sayyid Qutb. People should read up those ideas and look at what they've done. And I think as we understand that, you'll see a lot of those ideas influencing the identification of Muslim youth. I put in my materials in the appendix some charts that look at the radicalization process. One was from the NYPD report, the other was from a counterterrorism expert, Patrick Poole, who looked at the fact that you end up with terror on the top, but there's a lot of feeders into that. The primary feeder is the separatist feeling from some Muslim youth that they dream of a utopia to bring the state back to the way it was at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. And the time of the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century, he mixed roles of being a head of state, a general, and the messenger of God. We need to start creating new ideas. They call that, some would call it heretical, I call it modernization. New ideas that separate those roles, because Faisal Shahzad, the Times Square bomber, when he was in front of the judge, he told him, I did this because I was a Muslim soldier. So the Ummah, our Muslim community, is looked by these individuals as being a political unit, a military unit, and until we separate that, you will never stop terrorism.
The time
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
expired, and now